Ohio State is only averaging, Joe, 62 points. And let's start off with them. What does Ohio State have to do to win a national title? Joe, with a team like Notre Dame, I bring this up. You're only allowing 62.33 yards on the ground, rushing yards per game. And I got to be honest with you. If Ohio State defensively continues to lock down in the running game the way that they've done all season, this is an uphill battle for Notre Dame. So we're going to start off this keys to victory. What does Ohio State have to do to win a national title against Notre Dame?
So I'm already objecting to the premise that you just pitched. So I get what you're saying. I completely agree with you. Ohio State's run defense has been phenomenal. But what's worth noting is the last two games against Penn State and against Georgia, when they took away rushing production from Notre Dame's running backs, Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, and Ias Williams, who have all been really productive, especially Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame found success with Riley Leonard. So I think that even if Ohio State, that is obviously a focus. Like, you need to bat down the hatches. You can't allow any big splash plays from Price or from Love. But what has been really tough and has allowed for Notre Dame to prevail is that they have been able to succeed through that. I'm going to get to that when we get on the Notre Dame side. I think one thing that has been proven, Blake, is that there is a way to force Riley Leonard into turning the ball over, and you need to bait him into doing so. The ways in which Riley Leonard has been baited is by convincing him that there are deep options down the field and enticing him to take them. The two interceptions that he threw in this game, the Penn State game, he threw one down the middle of the field when he had Mitchell Evans running across the field on a drag route wide open. He throws it into double coverage. The second one, where he was picked off by Dennis Sutton, thought he had Mitchell Evans on the sideline. It would have been a 15, 20-yard gain. And instead he had Jordan Faison that was also on a drag route coming across the middle of the field. There are ways with Riley Leonard, because he ends up being way too overly aggressive at times when that's not his bread and butter. That's not his key to success and what has made him so good during this playoff run. So that to me is the first part, building off of what you said. Play good run defense, but set up Riley Leonard to not be able to connect with the easy layups across the field. Give him those opportunities where he thinks he's got something, and then Caleb Downs is able to make a play on the football. That is where you win this ball game first and foremost, is getting turnovers off of Riley Leonard, because the way that they were able to beat Georgia as handedly as they did was because he didn't have any of these turnovers.
I understand what you're saying, but when I look at Notre Dame, okay, and I look at what the run game that they had against Georgia versus the way that Ohio State, Joe, they held Oregon at negative 23 rushing yards. I mean, sacks are massively included in that. But James had 7 carries for 14 yards. Like, I'm with you. We'll talk about the Notre Dame side. I think they got to do stuff in the running game to help them and go 3 yards cloud of dust in some instances. We'll get to them. But, Joe, they got to continue to stop the run and contain the run. I mean, you gave up 3.89 yards per carry against Tennessee, but they ran it at you. That's all they did. They could not throw the ball at you at all. Now, Samson was out, and that's a completely different scenario. But, Joe, if I would have told you coming into the game that one team in the playoffs would give up 152 rushing yards, negative 23 rushing yards, and then 58 rushing yards, you would tell me that they're playing on another level right now. And I think what we do with Ohio State too much is talk about all the offensive weapons, everything that goes on offensively. Now, I do think that Texas did different things throwing the ball to the running backs. I think I tagged you in this. Sark talked about how he loves throwing the running backs out of the backfield and in the screen game. It was an extension of their running game. We had talked about that in that preview. I think what gets missed in this, you just got to continue to lean in on your front seven. That is a little banged up, but lean in on them. They legitimately won you the game versus Texas, did Jack Sawyer. And, Joe, they've been dominant there. I think that you got to sell out in defending the run if you're Ohio State. So I'll lead all this up to say this. You got to do everything to take away Riley Leonard running the football, Jeremiah Love, Price. And even when Williams comes into the game, who does very different things. And look, I think he's a really good weapon for Notre Dame. Containing the run and making Riley Leonard so to your point a little bit, I think you've got to make Riley Leonard beat you with his arm and say, listen, bud, y'all are not running the football today. Y'all may walk out here the champions, but there is no way that I'm allowing you to run the football. Joe, when they've been in these bully ball situations in moments, meaning Ohio State, they've won their fair share. Not all of them, but their fair share. To your point, in making Riley make bad decisions and mistakes, if you make him beat you with his arm, eventually he will, number one, turn the ball over, but he'll make bad and non-quick decisions. If I am Ohio State, I legitimately go man across the board. Say, listen, we might get beat. And Riley, look, to his credit, and I was wrong a little bit on him. Joe, some of these big plays are coming by his arm.
Yeah, but they're a lot more of like the short to intermediate areas of where he's been able to succeed.
The fade route 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, I mean, it's on a frozen rope. I mean, like, I didn't think the kid had it in him like that. Now, you're right. It is more intermediate stuff. But I am trying to replicate to some extent Georgia's game plan. And let me tell you why. I felt like that was what Georgia was going to do and what they tried to do. Joe, they gave up 7 offensive points to Notre Dame. 7.
Right.
It's not as if that they weren't very, very much. By the way, with an offense that didn't get past the 50-yard line in the second half until midway through the third quarter or midway through the fourth quarter, whichever that stat was, they couldn't move the ball. I am selling out. I think that if you do not do that and contain them and you allow Notre Dame to play their game, they will beat you. You got to take the fight to them to some regard. I'm making Riley Leonard beat you with his arm. I'm trying to stop the run. And that's my 2 biggest things. That's how you're going to go in here and win a natty.
My only problem with that, though, is just like, I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, because all I'm getting at here is that the last 2 games.
No, it's not easy. I never said it was easy.
No. But all I'm saying is that the last 2 games is that we've seen the run game get taken away, and they still were able to win. They were still able to succeed. So I think what builds off of that, though.
But
they
have not seen an offense that can score like this either. Yes.
Building off of that, protecting the football is incredibly important for this Ohio State team. We've said this entire playoff run, Notre Dame is a team that takes advantage of turnovers. Notre Dame didn't get that turnover until really late in the game, and it was in a position for them to set up the game-winning field goal that Mitch Jeter kicked. So protecting the football is going to be super integral going up against a secondary that is great at forcing these turnovers. I also think, to get a little bit deeper on the offensive side of the things, TreVeyon Henderson, they got to feed him the ball in space. And we saw Nick Singleton create opportunities for himself, and Andy Kotelnicki scheme him opportunities to produce by running these running plays to the outside. There were a lot of situations where he was getting the balls thrown his way in space, giving him room to operate. The interior of Notre Dame's defensive line and their front 7 is super stout. They did a great job in the game against Penn State of not allowing any inside runs. There was no production there. But where they started to get beat was when everything was off tackle, outside zone, whatever they could do to get Allen and Singleton any room to operate and to break tackles, that was where Notre Dame started to get gashed. So the first one that comes to mind, there was 2:15 left in the first quarter when Ohio State ran an end around with TreVeyon Henderson out of an empty look. Those are the types of plays that Ohio State needs to replicate, because they can find success. One of Notre Dame's biggest run game weaknesses has been trying to slow down athletic running backs when they have room to operate.
Well, and they did the one with the jet sweep.
Yep.
They put him in the slot, meaning Ohio State. And then that was the play where, if you remember, that Juckins killed a man, right? I mean, like, he just absolutely obliterated somebody. That was actually my number 3 too. I agree with you. I think that Penn State versus Notre Dame could have been the prequel of what you got to do to attack them right now. The problem that I had with that all day thinking about that was, if you're Marcus Freeman and Al Golden, like, is that not what you're trying to work on the most? Like, hey man, Penn State came out and got to the edge and they were trying to attack, which I'm not saying that they shouldn't.
Okay.
I'm at all. And I agree with you. Henderson, Judkins, Henderson, get them to the edges. I am 100% with you. But, man, it's going to be very interesting early in this game to see how Marcus Freeman and Al Golden respond to what just happened versus Penn State, too.
So the reason why I think that this is a really good talking point for what Ohio State's going to try to do to try and re-replicate that, there's a reason why Penn State had that approach. Notre Dame has suffered multiple season-ending injuries to their edge defenders. Jordan Botelho and Bubakar Traore, who started the season, both Botelho, very experienced, and then Traore was having a great season before he went down. So as much as I agree with you, that context kind of makes me wonder, and if you're an Ohio State fan, you should feel pretty good about still being able to produce in those areas, because right now that feels like it's Notre Dame's biggest weakness.
To be real with you, I'm putting as much speed on the field as I can if I'm Notre Dame early, because they're going to attack you on the perimeter.
Yeah. They're not going to try and out-physical you. They're going to try.
No, they're not. Well, I mean, why would they? I mean, it would be idiotic for them.
Literally what happened in the Michigan game, basically. Ohio State tried to be physical with Michigan, and it didn't work.
I mean, I mean, that's pretty much accurate. I mean, they tried to do that with Nebraska, too, if you remember. I mean, don't go in there playing bully ball when you can use speed.
Right.
Go full Rocky 3 on their ass. Speed, Rock, speed. I'm with you. But, man, again, you got to attack. Look, Joe, I got to be real with you. The running back versus linebacker matchup in this one, to me, is probably the game offensively for you. Yeah. I think both – look, Notre Dame's DBs have been really good. They're third in the country in passing yards allowed. They've been good visibly all year outside of the USC game, which we could see a replication of that. I mean, you never know. But there does come a part where, listen, man, I saw two backs in Singleton and Allen, brother. Look, Andy Kolanecki's play calling decisions, not feeding them at least 25 touches plus for both of them, is idiotic. Drew Aller was all over the place. Joe, I swear to God, I literally told my brother this during halftime. I am not throwing another pass.
And they kept doing it.
And they kept trying to make – and one of the commenters, or one of our followers on X, said this to us. He said it during the Boise State game, if you remember. They're trying to prove that they can win with Drew Aller.
Which is so stupid. So stupid that they took that bait.
I know. Attack the edge. Here was number 4, and this was even before Pate tweeted this out. Okay, now I didn't know this statistic, but I'm going to go it in another angle. Joe, the only team that I feel right now that can beat Ohio State in some situations is Ohio State. The penalties have got to stop.
Yeah.
That
was really underrated for the game. The Texas game.
Oh, brother. It should have lost them the game. It should have legitimately. Joe, they had 2 holdings on third down. They had the lineman downfield on third down. Brother, they had the holding. I mean, listen, man. I mean, this is egregious at this point. You're going to have to clean this up. I did think Pate brought up an interesting point. No teams are 134 teams in the in the FBS. Opponents' penalties against Ohio State is 134th in. Teams that they play are not getting penalized. It's the damnedest thing. And you know good and damn well. And Reese Davis brought this up before the telecast on game day. 1 holding call going into the game last week versus Texas. You mean Jack Sawyer and JT
Tuimoilau. Yeah, JTT. Yeah.
JTT. You mean to tell me that they've only generated 1 hold between the both of them? But it doesn't excuse your penalties. And the times that you're getting them in, too. If that offense comes in here and you're going to try to play against this defense and keep them around, and you have stupid penalties, you will get beat. You cannot have dumb mistakes. You got to be ready to go.
I had one more.
I do too, but continue.
Yeah,
go.
This is 2 points, but they're grouped into one another. When we talk about Notre Dame, Jeremiah Smith's going to get brought up. for obvious reasons. He was taken out of the game against Texas. I don't know for certain if Notre Dame is going to be able to replicate what Texas did because they run completely different style of schemes. Notre Dame is going to run a ton of man, one of the most man-heavy teams in college football. I don't know if they're going to think that they're going to be able to accomplish that against Jeremiah Smith in this game. I just don't know. But I think that there needs to be a contingency plan for this matchup on doing anything and everything possible to look elsewhere to produce on offense. And I know that's like such a broad sweeping statement and it doesn't really provide much of a solution, but they need to be ready and be more successful at turning to other guys because it felt like for long spurts, they couldn't find anything. They couldn't generate any big plays for not the entire game, but for just spurts throughout where their offense was really sputtering. They couldn't find those plays because they couldn't find Jeremiah Smith. And it felt like Will Howard was constantly looking his way, and it was leading to some hesitation. I think building off of that, Will Howard needs to be utilized more as a runner. He is a good athlete. He is a big, strong kid. He's not going to run 40 yards for a touchdown. We saw him trip over himself when he tried to and had enough room to run to score a touchdown. He just needs to be worked into the running game in read option situations. Maybe it's design quarterback runs. We saw Drew Aller have success producing for himself. When he couldn't complete those passes, they started giving him the ball as a runner, and he was moving the sticks and getting first downs. It's on tape. It's doable. It's accomplishable. And I think that Ohio State needs to make more of a conceded effort. This shouldn't be a situation where you're thinking, because it's the last damn game of the season, oh, well, maybe we need to be careful with our quarterback, blah, blah, blah. We got to be worried about what's going to happen after the game. Last game of the
tomorrow.
season. Right. There's no tomorrow. So just give him the rock and see if he can produce, because right now Notre Dame has shown on tape that they're not great at slowing down opposing quarterbacks who are running the ball.
I'm with you. I mean, look, you cannot have scared play calling in a game like this. Everything's got to come out, right? Like, I mean, you got to pull everything out of your hat. And listen, Joe, last thing I'm going to say about Ohio State. This isn't a legacy just for Ryan Day. So this is a legacy for Chip Kelly too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, let's call it what it is. Okay? For Ohio State fans, or anybody that'll listen to this segment, here it is. The last time they expanded the playoff, meaning college football, to 4 teams. The national champion, the first one, Ohio State. Every time that they have changed something, BCS game, the first one against Miami, who was in it?
Ohio State, Miami.
Ohio State. This is your legacy. I tell you this all the time. I'm very superstitious. Like, for example, when the national title's played in New Orleans, I have a really good feeling that LSU is going to be there. We never go to anywhere else. Go Google it yourself. LSU's never played a national title outside of the state of Louisiana.
The 2019 one was in
was in New Orleans.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Go look at it. 2003, 2007, 2011, and 2019. Every single one of them were in New Orleans. So superstitious Blake is going to build off of that legacy. Joe, this is it for Ryan Day and his mentor. I think they're going to come. You brought up the reason I bring this up too. You bring up a point about Jeremiah Smith and Ohio State not being able to replicate what Texas did. Brother, there's not a lot of people in the country. Now, you could put Xavier Watts over there, and you have one of them. But, man, they legitimately went man when they would go trips left. Right? They went straight man, and they would put a safety on top of Jeremiah Smith. They took him out of the game on purpose. Everybody, if they do that again, if Notre Dame does that again, Igbuka, Tate,
right,
everybody else around him has got to step up.